everyone, it's Miriam with a Y. I went shopping at my local Meijer, which in the US Midwest is a big store where, you can buy clothes and bicycles and all your groceries all at the same place. Anyway, I ended up buying something that I've had fun using with my resin. Now, I don't know if all grocery stores do this, but it's pretty common here where they'll put like extra impulse type items hanging from the front of shelves that have regular stock in the aisles of the store. Well, I got sucked in by some ice cube trays that were hanging in the soft drink aisle because they were silicone and really pretty shiny inside. So I was impressed. So remember, the finish of your mold determines the finish of your piece when you pop it out. So a shiny mold will make a shiny piece that you may not even have to top coat, which is always a plus. Now, I got the one with the least imperfections, like I went through all of them. And the only real problem that this one has, it looks like a water stain, but it's permanently etched in there. But all the other compartments were nice and shiny. And the reason I didn't really care about the fact that this one had this issue is I don't even think I could ever fill all 6 compartments at the same time anyway. Because I think if I did that, once the resin cured, I don't think I'd have enough flex to pop everything out. So I think the best thing to do when using something like this is probably to fill like this one, and that one, so that the empty areas still permit flex to pop everything back out. I really liked the fact that when I kind of left the mold alone, it really held a nice square shape. And I liked the fact that they had a beveled bottom, which was a little unusual as opposed to a flat bottom. I thought it would be a cool resin mold. Since I was playing with a new mold, it seemed like a good time to try out another resin too and see how it performed for Petri's so that I could report back to all of you. A super kind viewer that I know by the screen name The Memory Traveler checked my wish list and sent me some MARINE Resin. Thank you so very much for this. I love trying out different resins. Now, MARINE is a lower cost resin that I know is used by many Petri artists. Now, I've not tried it before because I'd also seen many Facebook posts from artists stating that this yellows faster than other resins. Now, I can't speak to that because I have no personal experience, but the low relative price is attractive. Now, if you've worked with this resin, I would love it if you would share your experiences in the comments below to help others make their decisions. So today we'll use MARINE Resin and Kielty Inks. I've pulled out ochre, forest green, and blue. And then of course we'll need PIñATA white or Blanco that I'll be working with in this little bottle because it's more convenient. And I've also pulled out PIñATA pearl. Now before we start, I'm going to show you a couple of earlier experiments that came out of that ice cube tray mold. And I'm putting gloves on because these are so easy to get fingerprints on, and they're just too pretty to kind of blemish that way. So this is an earlier piece. Now, at first, I was a little disappointed with this one because, I dropped my inks in. There was a lot of action when, the inks looked like they were really moving and doing a whole bunch of things. But they didn't really sink that much. For all the height of this, they only sank this much. And what looks like glitter is actually zillions of little micro bubbles. But I've actually come to really like this piece because of those bubbles. I think it's kind of pretty. And like I said, the bevel that this particular mold has is just stunning. And it gives such a beautiful shiny finish. Look at that. It's like a polished stone. And I didn't have to do anything to get that finish. It just came out of the mold like this. Okay, so this one was pretty. Then I tried again. And again, lots of activity on this side, so I was really encouraged. But hardly any sinking again, and more micro bubbles, because we can see the pattern that got caused back here. I think this is kind of pretty too, but it's still not what I'm after. I want color that sinks and comes down and, really takes advantage of the thickness of this piece. And then there's this piece. I used a couple colors here, I think 3. And my goal here was to fight the bubble issue. So I made sure to warm my part A before mixing it into my part B. I let the resin sit a little bit longer, but then, when you do that, then it can start to get a little thicker. I even aimed a heat gun at it to try to fight the bubbles that way too. I didn't know. I still got bubbles, but I did get more dropping of the ink, sinking of the ink, which was what I was after. So for that, I was happy. So remember, we're working on this side, so you're pouring all your inks, and so this would be your top at the time, and then this is the bottom of the mold. So I did want color to sink this way, and it did. So not a lot, but definitely more, so I'm encouraged. But still quite a few bubbles. I don't know. I'm guessing it's the resin. If any of you are ProMarine users and have had this experience, please let me know. And if you've had success in combating the bubbles, also let me know. Now, I loved this effect. So what would happen is that the ink that sank would kind of come down and curve inward. And it also did it in the middle. I don't think this is the same line going all the way around. I think some of them are lines coming from the middle up and around this way. That's because I can kind of see two sort of lines, like in the blue especially, like they meet like this. So that's really fascinating to me, and I am really curious as to what causes that. Like, is it the fact that I dropped some pearl right down the middle at the end? I don't know. So let's see if we can recreate this. After having warmed part A to hopefully help with the microbubbles, I mixed 80 milliliters of resin. Warming thins the resin. It makes it flow more like thin maple syrup and less like thick honey. Thinner resin releases bubbles much easier, so that was the goal. The trick is not warming it too much, because then your resin's going to cure quickly, and some Petri effects need time for the inks to sink and move, so the resin can't be curing when that's happening. Okay, here's hoping I found the happy temperature for this resin. By the way, this resin is really low in odor. Like many resins, part A has virtually no odor whatsoever. Part B has like a faint soapy ammonia odor. And then when you mix the two parts, the odor pretty much vanishes. I kind of like that. So, after pouring into the mold, letting the resin sit for a few minutes to let more bubbles rise, finally cutting the tag off the mold, I passed the heat gun very quickly just to pop surface bubbles. And then I began my ink dropping. In the first square, I dropped 2 drops each of blue in 4 spots, followed by 1 drop of white. Then 2 drops of green, and then 1 drop of pearl. Now, I purposely didn't shake my pearl bottle. You know how you have to shake those bottles to mix the mica up? I purposely didn't do it so that I would get less mica coming out, and I would get a quick glimpse into the Petri when the pearl ink bloomed out. In the second square, I alternated ochre with the forest green. So 2 drops in each spot again, followed by 1 white. Then another round of 2 drops of color, followed by 1 pearl. Now back to the first square. I'd given it a chance to settle a bit before adding more color. And so now I'm adding 2 drops of blue and 1 of white in each of the 4 spots. In the second square, I'm only adding 1 drop of color now and following it up with 1 of pearl. I don't know. I'm just deciding to switch things up here. We'll see if it makes any difference. In square 3, I'm going to drop inks in a sort of circular but not very careful pattern to see if that's going to lead to anything different. Like, are the inks going to sink differently here? Will it give me another pattern? I don't know. I'm doing that both to the blue and the white, just kind of being almost random. Now for what I think caused the cool pattern. I'm dropping 1 drop of white in the middle of square number 1, and then 2 drops of the unshaken pearl, also in the middle now. And then since I'm switching things up in square number 2, I'm adding 3 drops of white in the middle, and then 3 drops of pearl. Then finally in number 3, I added green in the middle, then pearl. Then a new round of blue everywhere, followed by white everywhere. And then I kind of wanted a little bit more color in square number 2, and some pearl. I don't have a reason. Just did it because it might be fun. I don't know. And then 2 last drops of pearl in square 1. Now let's put this all to bed. And in case you need a break, let's end here. Here's the link to part 2, the reveal, and a couple of extras too. See you there. Bye now.